Everyone, my name is Dan Johnson from Protegrity, and today we're going to be looking at Presidio as well as Protegrity AI Developer Edition. All right, so as you know, Presidio is a great open source library for finding and redacting PII. A lot of teams use it, and for great reason, it works well. All right, and then Protegrity AI Developer Edition is actually going to extend upon Presidio. We're still going to be using Presidio in that detection pipeline, but then we're getting a little more utility of our data from tokenization as well as role-based access unprotect, right? So we can kind of get tokenization, see some patterns in the data, all while having it being protected, and then we can unprotect it for those users with the proper permissions. All right, and we're gonna actually walk through the migration. We'll show you what each one looks like and what the differences are and what that extension and migration looks like. All right, so our first step is actually going to be take a quick peek at this project, and we're actually going to be dealing with a support case ticket here today, right? Pretty standard kind of AI application that's notoriously difficult to deal with because there's a bunch of PII and support case tickets, as we can see, from name, email, phone, social, credit card, etc. So the quick test is, what's Presidio going to do for us, right? So let's clear this out. So what we're going to do here is run a Python main script. We're going to input the ticket and we're going to save the output. Nothing crazy there. As we can see, after Presidio's processing, we're able to find 7 different PII entities from account number to social security. And then in our sanitized data, you can see it at the bottom, but let me just kind of print it out so you know it's real. We can do our output sanitized data. And we can see, right, it's all sanitized. There's no PII in there, and this is awesome, right? We don't have to worry about this. We can send this in our AI pipeline. The only issue is we kind of nuked the utility a little bit, right? The person's gone, the email's gone, there's nothing in its place. We're losing context, right? And as we know, AI and LLMs, context is very important, as it is for humans. So let's actually take a quick peek. We already know what Presidio does, so let's actually look really quick at what this migration would look like at a high level. Again, the most important part here is we're not changing any business logic. It's just going to be kind of a couple config changes here. And first, I just want to kind of show you the commits that it took to do this. So as you can see, we added one initially just to migrate to Developer Edition, and then we added one more for that unprotect capability, right? That's outside of tokenization. And let's actually look at the files that were changed just for a high-level overview here. We can see 6 files overall. The 2 core kind of medium, large size changes would be the processors, right? So we completely removed the Presidio processor when migrating to Developer Edition, and we replaced it with the Protegrity processor. And then there's kind of a couple of really small changes here. We'll look at these 2 files just so we can kind of see what it looks like. And let's clear that. And now I'm actually going to do a diff of those files that we just showed within VS Code, just so we can actually see it with a bit of a better UI than a straight diff in terminal. And let me show you. So right here, you can see we're going to be looking at the Presidio old processor versus the Protegrity new processor. It's going to open up for us. As you can see on the left here, we have our Presidio processor. We're all used to this. We've done this before. One class with a couple methods underneath it. Pretty long file, but you set it up and it's fine. And then on the left, on the right here, we can actually see Developer Edition. And it's actually a lot simpler because, again, like we said, we're using Presidio in that detection pipeline, but that's all managed inside the Docker containers. So there's really no need to do this big setup that we had on our left here. Rather, you can see we have one Protegrity processor with one class underneath. We have an initialization, which is actually going to set our endpoint for the Docker container, as well as the entity map, which we have pretty similarly in Presidio, which we'll show in a second here. And then one method for process text, right? So again, with the Python SDK, we're able to do this essentially in one line. And this findings right here is actually just not necessary for the pipeline, but we're just doing it to actually expose what we're finding, so it's pretty clear in the demo. And then you can kind of see that here, processing results, and then extract findings, the only thing we added. Again, that was just for the demo. So realistically, the only thing we're adding is a quick endpoint URL in one class. So nothing too crazy there, as well as our protected text. Cool. So let's close this out. And we're actually going to look at a couple of other files just so we kind of know what the diff is there, right? So we're not kind of hiding anything behind any walls. We're going to look at those change files that we showed earlier. As It's going to pop up here, and we can see, again, this is just the config file, right? That was the one that had kind of a 24 character change. So the next biggest change, which again is just the entity mappings, which Presidio has. And essentially, we're just kind of doing, it's a very similar but different mapping, as well as giving the endpoint, right? So this is the endpoint to the local Docker container. If you need any help setting this up, we have a video on setting up the Dev Edition, as well, the README in the repo is pretty solid. So that's pretty much it. Again, those are the main changes. The only other one we had was to requirements TXT. So I'm going to show you that one, just so we cover all our bases here. And long story short, as you'll see, all we're doing is removing Presidio in replacement of Developer Edition. Again, still using Presidio on the back end, just removing the manual overhead to have to manage it on your own, as the Docker container does that for us. All right, and then one more, there's gonna be nothing more to compare, but I'll show you kind of the other files that we looked at, right? A diff across, our app, our utils, and our base. No changes, right? So that's what we saw. And now we're actually going to head and switch to our Protegrity branch. And we're on that now. And let's actually go ahead and make sure our Docker containers are running. Again, like I said, it's all on GitHub, easy to download. README should be good, and we already have a video for how you would install this. So you just go run. I already have them running, which is great, right? We have our classification service, context provider, pattern provider, and semantic guardrails, right? We won't be using semantic guardrails, but it's a feature that kind of comes out of the box there. And then we're actually going to go ahead. We've kind of set it up already. Again, feel free to watch the other video if you need help. As you can see, same text as before. Let's look at the ticket, right? Exact same support case, no difference there. But let's actually see how Protegrity Developer Edition handles this. When we clear it out, we're just going to run it. Same command as before, right? We're running the project. Input's going to be that ticket, and then we'll output the output. As you can see, we're finding the different entities. And just as before, we found 7 different entities from account number to social. And then our sanitized text here, let me clean it up. Output sanitized text. As you can see, right, pretty similar to what we were doing before, but now it's not just completely gone, right? Now we actually have context that we can refer to. As you can see in this person's name, this data is tokenized, but would persist across all support tickets. Tokenized, so we can actually make correlations between the two. We can send this to our LLM so they can actually reference a person by that customer name, which is great, or email, for example, right? There's still context that that's an email field, and we can reference them as such. And then kind of the same thing in the support case, Social Security and phone, we're actually keeping, the same function, so, we can play around with it as we need. And this immediately just gives you more utility because we're able to send it and have more context. And that's how tokenization can help. And then basically the next question is, okay, well, now I need to unprotect it, right? Before that data was gone, but now my security person needs to actually unprotect that. So let's look at what that would look like. I think the kind of more interesting part is, let's see what it looks like when somebody unauthorized tries to do that. So I'm just going to paste this in. Right, so we're going to run same application, but we're going to unprotect it here. And then our role is set to AI support agent, right? So our AI support agent should not be able to unprotect this data, untokenize it. And we're sending that sanitized ticket in, right, which had all the tokenized data. And then we're just going to save it to an output directory. So as you can see, we can't do that, right? We don't have permissions. Role-based access control, our AI agent does not have permissions. So then the question is, okay, well, how about my human agent, right? So let's do the same exact command, and then I will change AI support agent to our human support agent. All right, and as you can see, we're unprotecting the data now because we've gotten a user who is authorized to unprotect this data. You can see we're going one by one. And then our restored text down here, right? We have Sarah Johnson, we have the full email, name, all the PII is back, right? So I'm a human support agent who needs that, and I have it, right? So now we have a safe way to tokenize data and maintain utility while also being able to unprotect that data and come back to its original form. So it's a lot more flexible and we gain a lot more utility. So In summary, this is a great way to kind of extend upon Presidio's amazing capabilities and get more utility out of your data, specifically for some of these AI applications where you need that additional context that would come with tokenized data. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.